All right, so this video, if you sell SaaS, B2B, really doesn't matter, but this is really driven at my technology people. You guys don't seem to get this. Attach yourself to goals that are activity-based or activity goals. Sales monitor how effective the activity is or is not. So why does that matter, Nick? And why am I picking on the tech people? If you're in tech, like and subscribe. This will teach you more about selling than any of the training you're ever gonna do. At the end of the day, if you're doing all of the proper activities, you should be making sales. Activity begets sales. Sales doesn't beget activities. Does that make sense? Activity comes first, sales comes second. If you're doing the activities, you make the sales. If the activity you're doing isn't making sales, three things are happening. Number one, you're not very good at the activity or making a sale. Something's wrong in your training. But that's a very fixable sales rep, and you can get them to the top easily because if they can do the activity, someone like me could teach them how to make a sale. Very simple. Second thing, they either have no idea, something's disconnected and they're faking their activity, therefore they're not making sales, or they don't need a lot of activity to make sales, which is great. That's fine. If they're a top producer and they only need, this much activity to be a top producer, now obviously if you increase their activity, you would increase their sales. So that's kind of what that is. And then the last one, which I kind of touched on, they're faking their activity. They're filling out the CRM saying, oh yeah, I called Tommy and Billy and I called Vigoron and I called the company line. They didn't do shit. They didn't call, they didn't email, they didn't do anything. They have no activity, but they're putting it in their CRM and it's making it seem like, oh, this guy's doing all the right activities. He just doesn't sell anything. It must be the sales cycle. It must be the economy. It must be this. No, it's bullshit. They're not actually doing the steps, because if they were doing the steps with enough activity, they would make sales. That's why we attach our goals to activity. But again, has to be the right activity. They have to be well trained. They have to know what they're doing. But a lot of sales reps, particularly in technology, have figured out, oh, I get a great high salary. I don't have to do anything for 2 years. And then they just jump to the next job. And it's like, they just keep accruing more and more, experience. But nobody ever asked how they did. Did you fail your quota? Did you suck? Oh no, I worked here for 2 years, it just wasn't a good fit. No, it's because you couldn't sell shit, because you didn't want to do any activities and you didn't make any sales. So be very mindful of that. It's why, it's so important that you monitor the activity. Because the other thing that can occur, and this is the rare case, if you're in SaaS, you're in technology, which I know the SaaS occur just happened where a bunch of people got laid off because they weren't doing the fucking activity and they weren't making sales. Crazy, I know. Like, oh my God, we gotta perform. Sales is just keeping score. That's all it is. It literally is giving you a grade on your activity. And everybody's different. So like, I might have to do this much activity to make this much sales, or I might have to do this much activity, a little tiny amount to make a monster amount of sales. It's individual. That's all that matters, is it's individual, and you know what it takes. If you're not hitting your quota, you need more activity to get you more opportunities to try to make a sale to hit those numbers. And you have to figure that out very quickly. So when you work with Man Sales, you work with me as your sales coach and trainer, I try to start everybody out at the highest level of their own output. What can they do in a day, in a week, in a month, in 6 months? And the reality is, at the end of that month, I'll have a very good idea of how successful they're gonna be, period. Because I'll be able to look and see what kind of activities they're doing. That's the easiest thing, is monitor directly their activities. Listen to their phone calls. Check and look and see, are they sending the emails? Are they filling out the CRM with any other data other than called? Well, what was said on the call? I don't know, it wasn't important. That's because they didn't call. Every call is important. Log the data. That's what you're paying them a salary to do, is to collect data so that you can retarget, remarket, and possibly give the lead to someone like yours truly who will make the sale, because I'm going to do a process and do it correctly. That's the other thing that a lot of these technology companies don't realize. You should give your best leads to your best salespeople, and that's it. Give the dog shit to the new people, give it to the people who are not meeting the quota, and they will suffer through it. And if they quit, so what? They were weak, they didn't have quota. They weren't helping the team, they weren't serving the business. I know that sounds harsh, but it's time to nut up or shut up. Be a full-grown adult and take responsibility. And if you need help, hire a coach. Have your company hire a trainer, coach. Very, very simple. And that's why part of the reason the SaaS occurred is because there's so much dead weight at a lot of these companies where there are salespeople that make big salaries and don't have anything to show for it. In my life, I've always been on commission. If I don't sell, I don't eat. Period. End of story. And if you don't sell, you don't get leads. Oh, who knew? Oh, this isn't fair. This is tough. No shit. Life's not fair. It's time to nut up or shut up. Be an adult. Do the activities the best you can. And if you need help, ask your manager, ask your supervisor. If they aren't helping you, your success is your responsibility. Call a coach. If you're an individual rep, I'll work with you. I'll work out pricing and stuff for you so that I can help you. It ain't gonna be cheap because I need a little blood in the game. I need to know that you're committed. Why am I gonna waste my time helping someone who can't do their activities? Just like working out. You don't get big and muscular by not going to the gym. It's like, I always get people ask me, they're like, Nick, you're 300 pounds and muscular. How'd you get like that? I go to the gym a fucking lot. And when I'm there, I'm efficient at my activities. And if I do the activities enough time over my lifetime, it's added up to being a 300-pound monster. Very simple. That's all it is. Same thing in sales. It's the exact same story. Learn the skill, practice the skill, continue to practice the skill. Do the activities using the skill that you practiced. Do that enough activity at a high enough level, and you will be able to hit whatever amount of sales that you need to hit, period. Perfect example. I knew a guy, we're gonna call him Rick, just because I like picking on Rickies because I always find him funny. I knew a guy named Rick. Rick was an absolutely mediocre sales rep. Nothing special about this guy. He was average in freaking every way. Height, weight, everything. His life, his car, like he was like the bell curve of average in everything. But Rick had one superpower, and that is he understood activity. And what he said was, I'm gonna be the best salesperson at this company. Called me, and he said, Nick, I have this goal, how do I do this? And I said, okay, Rick. Kind of funny, Nick and Rick. I said, Rick, what are your numbers? And he read them to me instantly. He was like, I have to go on 10 appointments, I make 2 sales, and this is how I get an appointment, this is how I call, this is what I do. And I said, this is really simple. What would make you the top sales rep? And he said, oh, if I made like 30 sales a month, I would be like the pinnacle. And I said, well, let's just work backwards. And we just broke down his numbers, and we said that if he needs to make 30 sales, out of 10, he makes 2. So 30, he needs to make 15 times that. So he needs 150 appointments every week or every month to make the 30 sales. Well, how many times do you have to dial? He's like, well, I had to call X amount of people. And I said, just multiply it out. And he said, okay, that's it? And I said, yeah. I charged him $250 for an hour to explain the math to him. And then I said, let's set up your plan. It took me 1 hour at a time, $250. Now that's not the standard pricing anymore because more people are calling, but you get the point. Broke down the plan, broke down what he needs to do, told him to tell his manager he needs more leads, more contacts or old leads, whatever, to fill the pipeline so he can have people to call. Within 3 months, he's the top sales rep hitting 25, 35 sales every month. But the secret is not 25, 35 sales. It's 150 appointments that he generated and pitches. That's the secret. That's the juice. And now he's one of the top reps at the company. Now he's a sales manager and he's got a whole team and all this shit. And all he does is teach them, hit these numbers. Do the calls. Do the activity. That's it. And his skill has increased. I will say this, we've had a few follow-up calls. He's been a client for 2 or 3 years now, 3 years now. And he literally is like, Nick, I've gotten a little better. I'm closing 3 out of 10. And I was like, hell yeah. 3 out of 10. That just rapidly increased his selling. Like, the 150 appointments. Well, now he sells way more. All that little bit of increase took him years to get a little bit better. But he was still at the top at his current skill because of his level of activity. His sales are just how you keep score on how good your activity is. That's it. Period. So if you suck or you're weak or you have no idea what you're doing, you're gonna need a lot more activity to make a little tiny bit of sales. But just like working out, the more you do it, the easier it gets. You get stronger, you get better, you get used to that normal. Go out there and sell. Subscribe, stay for the while.